A few seasons ago, we did a whole video just looking at penis. We saw his... Well, now that I'm demonetized, I don't know how you want me to say... That's his name. That's how it's pronounced. I don't know how else. We took a look at the player that is here on our side of the screen, whose name is spelled P-I-N-I-S. It just so happens that currently he is the highest win rate G3 player in World Arena. Period. He has a 74.35% win rate. The closest person to his win rate after that is Howtoplay with a 73.6% win rate at the time that I am recording this. Howtoplay is actually ranked 5. We'll call him Mr. P. Mr. P is ranked... I don't know that it makes it that much better. Mr. P. He is currently ranked 89. He doesn't have as many matches as the other players in G3 right now. He's got... I mean, they have 2, 3, 4, 5 times as many matches as he does. That's why he didn't climb more, because with a 74.35% win rate, if he kept that up against all the other G3 players, he would be climbing to the top 10. He'd be climbing to the top 4. This is ridiculous. There's no one else that has a win rate this high this season. One of the greatest things, couple great things. Let's just see the next match before we talk about all the great things. So as I was saying, one of the great things about this guy is he, number one, doesn't delete his gameplay. He doesn't delete his replays. Everything's just available for him. He does have a couple OP LD5s. I should have mentioned that earlier. He doesn't use them all the time. Sometimes he uses free-to-play friendly things. Veramos, Vertiheel, Amduat, since he was just Hall of Heroes, and Taris, which you see here. So we'll take a look. I mean, we are going to see some of these units actually being picked today. This just so happens that he's picking all the LD5s in this one. But he doesn't delete his replays, is number one, which some G3 players do. Number two is he takes turn 2 on a fairly regular... Look at this, already winning. He takes turn 2 on a fairly regular basis. He is very comfortable taking turn 2. He doesn't have crazy fast runes. He just goes for a lot of efficiency. Let's take a look at the next match. So as I was saying in the last clip, he's not trying to outspeed anything. I know he's first picking Oliver, but he's actually taking turn 2. He's very comfortable playing turn 2. His runes are not crazy fast. You're not going to see him using 340 speed. So that's a thing in RTA if you have not been playing very much of RTA this season, or last season, or the season before that. 340 speed is more... you need a lot of speed if you want to outspeed things in RTA nowadays. But he's not trying to outspeed. He's picking Oliver first pick because it's an efficient unit. He likes the unit. He thinks it's very effective. Not that he's trying to outspeed everything. He's also not using a whole bunch of LDs in this match. He's just trying to go for... He's fine taking turn 2. He's mastered the pick ban phase, and he's trying to make his units as efficient as possible. Like I said, he does have all of his units and runes on social media. Sometimes he changes them out, but he's got everything there, so you can see all the stats and everything on his win rate's going to go down after everyone sees all the stats. People are already seeing the stats. He's posting it himself. It's not like someone else is posting it for him, but all of his stuff is just free to see on social media. See how he runes things. Some of the ways he runes some things are a little bit wacky. I'm thinking mostly of the Masha, which is super tanky and not really that fast, but I'm sure we'll see the Masha in a second. Now, this is what a 74% win rate player looks like against a 73% win rate player. So, Mr. P, I was going to say his name. Mr. P has a 74.35% win rate, rank 89. Howtoplay has a 73.60% win rate at rank 5. Howtoplay has also just done more matches this season than Mr. P. So let's see. This Ongyu is just going to wreck everything. Or he's going to wreck and the violent proc. This would have been a very different situation if... I have to tell you guys, this would have been a very different situation if he didn't get a violent proc. You could say that about every single match throughout the entire history of Summoner's War. It would have always been a very different situation if it wasn't for a violent proc. And now he's just going to obliterate Rika because he can't die when he's stunned. So, GG, that's how that works. Next match after Howtoplay, he gets matched with a G2 player, roughly 121 points below him. The way that this works is, I'm sure most of you guys already know this by now, but if you don't already know, if you're maybe new to the game or whatever, if after losses, it will match you with players that are, especially multiple losses, for example. He didn't have multiple losses, but I'm just saying in general rule of thumb, it will match you up with players that are lower on the lower ranking than you. And if you win multiple times in a row, or just win in general, it will be more likely to match you with players that are at a higher ranking than you. Unless you're playing at a period where there's like really not too many people even queuing for matchmaking, then it will just match you with him. Be like, I gotta just match you with whoever. Maybe not whoever, but you know, if you're winning a lot, and then you're like, the game matches you with like a Guardian player, and you're like, I'm just C2. Why is it matching with a Guardian player? Like, that's because you kept winning. So the game's like, all right, you're gonna keep winning. We're gonna match you with stronger players. That's just how matchmaking works. But I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of info. I was surprised that he actually picked a Water Shadowcaster at the very. His opponent picked a Water Shadowcaster at the very end. So there's two ways to. So the Water Shadowcaster player actually went for the Volantis first because stuns is a good counter to the Water Shadowcaster, because then he can't do his skill 2. He can't do his little passive into his skill 2 when he's stunned. So now this might be an issue. Oh, I guess he found the opening. I wasn't paying attention to his passive activations and when his passives were actually activating, but I guess he found an opening in the so that his passive wouldn't kick in. So I think at this point, that's just game. He kind of gets lucky with the Douglas. Not entirely lucky, because he did time it to make sure that he killed the Water Shadowcaster at the right moment. But finding that opening against the Water Shadowcaster, number one, without having him in his protected state is important. And then also you can stun that. I think that the Water Shadowcaster will eventually get a buff, but the buff could make him too ridiculous OP, and then we could have another situation of like Douglas and Oliver, and it's like, okay, calm down. But yeah, like an anti-stun, whatever. Let's take a look at that next match. Wouldn't be a G3 unless there was a first pick Gianna into a Han. Riley is surprising. The Tomo is even more surprising. Riley's not that surprising, a little bit surprising. They did pivot from just going fast and aggressive. They're like, you know what, I'm not going to just go fast aggressive. I'm going to go for a more rounded composition. But the Tomo is actually a little bit surprising there. So we knew that the Diana was getting through because they picked the Ragdoll. I mean, they picked the Ragdoll. Probably they were going to pick the Ragdoll anyway. But they had the Ragdoll in there, so they didn't have to worry about banning the Diana out. So they banned the Volantis, they banned the Gianna, even though he kind of did have the Annabelle counter to the Gianna as well. Although the Gianna and Tomo combination would have been very deadly. He had 2 speed leads for the Gianna either way, so he just banned that out. And then the Tomo doesn't have as strong of a combination without the Gianna being there. So at this point, this is almost a match of efficiency. He wants to take that Han out as soon as possible. There you go. So this is kind of, I mean, it's not already game, but it is kind of getting there, right? So Nature's Protection there. He's got 2 stacks on the Nana. That's why I say that. He's got 2 stacks on Nana. He's got like all these AoE defense breaks. So if Diana can find an opening where she's not going to get punished after that, then, and also well, he's got multiple things a defense break on that side. So I feel this is already heavy in favor of of Mr. P. But we know it's usually heavy in favor of him because he's got a 74% win rate. So you can just bank on him winning, and you're going to be right 74% of the time. Man, those are really great odds. I want to take some bets on this guy. I'm sure he would appreciate that. But also, again, like I mentioned, there are. I think this is just kind of already. Well, we'll see. Depends on the procs. Depends on how crazy Riley gets. Also, it's not over. I'm calling it a little early, but like I said, he has all of his runes available on Instagram, and I will link that in the comments and description. And I hate Riley so much. I really do. I really hate Riley. Oh, my goodness. And you know what he's doing also? He's hitting that, yep, there we go. He was just going to finish that Ragdoll off, and then that was game. But he's hitting the fire unit with the Oliver, therefore not triggering the Ragdoll's passive. Double LD oracles. Triple oracles. Quadruple oracles. Someone better pick a Praha. There's no Praha. Feels bad. Bans out the Lima, bans out the Juno. So this is kind of interesting. He banned out the Lima because Lima is the sustain on that team. Also, the Juno was banned out because they didn't think that the Lima was going to get banned out. So they actually didn't really have to ban out the Juno, in my opinion. Just that they didn't think that the Lima was going to be the one that that got banned out. So again, this is another textbook example of he is very comfortable. He got resisted. He's very comfortable taking turn 2, though. Everything there, he's first picking Oliver, but then after that, he's just taking turn 2 and turn 2 and turn 2. So he's got the revive on the Annabelle. He's got all things in nature, which is all the provokes, all the... Oh my god, that is, that is so toxic now. 2 turns! Do you think that was an overbuff? First off, I wanted to see a Praha here. I felt like that was a missed opportunity. Second, I feel like that's really strong. That Shizuka is really strong now. Now he is playing against the #1 ranked player currently this season. He still does have a higher win rate than Pinkroyd, but Pinkroyd is currently, he's done more matches and he is number one on the tier list. Number one on the tier list. So bans out Tianlang. Tianlang was a counter to like everything on that entire team. So of course he had to ban it out. I'm actually surprised to see, maybe I shouldn't be, but I'm surprised to see the Shengpeng Ryu from the Pinkroyd. I should never be surprised to see anything from Pinkroyd, though, because whatever it is, there's always a reason for it, and it's always very effective in his hands. So the Tianlang was just going to counter Narsha. It was going to counter Oliver. It was going to counter Vertiheal. And this is the first time or the second time we've seen him actually pick the Narsha? Narsha, super nerfed, though. Attack, power break, speed break. Her damage is based on those 2 things, so now she does, effectively, no damage. So that was a fast match. Yet another match against Pinkroyd. Let's see if the picks change. Let's see if the bans change. So the picks do change. No Narsha here. Bans out the Annabelle. Bans out the Tianlang. Tianlang would have countered so much. Tianlang actually is a very... he's going to be mad at me for saying this, but he's such a good counter to basically everything on Mr. P's team, because everything is turn cycling, everything increases attack age, so Tianlang is such a strong counter to basically everything that steals attack age. I feel like the Tianlang might be the most banned unit that he bans this season. Just period. Maybe I'm just making assumptions. But hey gang, nice pick here. Also he didn't pick up the Narsha. And Pinkroyd's very aggressively picking the Masha, which is not the first time that I've seen people very aggressively picking early in the draft the Masha this season. I mean, you can counter the Masha's crazy speed with Leo, except that she has element advantage over Leo, and you know that she's going to attack Leo when he's not going to have immunity, so that's still dangerous, and she's going to just have immunity. She was buffed to give herself immunity every time she attacks. So, very, very nasty. Riley's gonna do Riley things. Gets the cleanse. However, the Shengpeng is still on the field, and Riley comes in and does crazy Riley things. Man, Riley's so dangerous. You know, you see Pinkroyd respecting the Riley and how strong she is. We complained that Lulu is too OP. So now we have a unit that's just Lulu on steroids, and everyone's like, no, this is fine. No, the unit is fine. It's great that we have a free-to-play friendly unit that is as strong as Riley, but Riley gets ridiculous sometimes. Am I the only one that thinks that Riley gets ridiculous? So the first couple picks here are fairly standard. Opponent going for all fire and wind units, going for a fast control, not too fast, but a just control team in general. He goes for the double fire at the very end, including the fire robo. So this is a cool unit. You got to think about it this way, is Mr. P has multiple LD5s. He has at least 4 to 5 LD5s, some of which are very, very strong. Like, for example, Light Beast Rider. So he's not just picking these units because he, for whatever, just pick whatever. He's picking these units because he feels that these have specific advantages in this situation that he is facing right now. So he's picking the Fire Robo because it's like, okay, opponent's picking all fire and wind. He's picking things that are going to get extra turns. I'll pick the Fire Robo. I'm going to steal some turns. I'm going to decrease the attack gauge. I'm going to absorb the attack gauge. I'm going to stun with skill 1. So Fire Robo, if you guys don't know what but this is a unit that after he was buffed is, a lot of people aren't giving him credit because they're like, oh, his before buffed skills. Well, this guy was buffed. All the Robos were buffed, so much stronger now. He increases his attack. He's like the anti-violent unit. He increases attack gauge when a unit by 50% when an opponent gets an additional turn, and then he also increases his effect activation rate. So he's going to be very reliable to, as long as he doesn't get resisted, he is going to be very reliable to actually strip and absorb the attack gauge with skill 2, right there, and then also get his actual stuns with the skill 1 because it increases his effect activation rate when he gets his passive. First pick, Light Monkey King into a Josephine and Vert. His opponent is literally picking his counters. So he's got this crazy CC turn cycling combo. He bans out the Anvil, bans out the unit that can cleanse the opponent's team from the Light Monkey. This should be a very interesting match, but if you look, his opponent actually picked his own counters. Light Monkey King is very painfully countered by a lot of control things are painfully countered by Josephine, right? So gets the increased cooldown on the Ganymede. Still cannot be increased cooldown increased. Still cannot be cooldown increased on the skill 2 though for the Ganymede. So just cooldown increasing his skill 3. He can still do skill 2 on something else. Gets the stuns. Josephine's passive already procced. He's just gonna go nanners and kill one thing after another, and he's gonna probably go for Ganymede here. Yep, just to make sure that he actually got it. And GG. That's very interesting. See, some of these matches, like, if I was in them, I would be like, no, I need an extra 5 seconds to think. I need an extra 5. And I just couldn't think as fast as all of the things that were going on at any given time. Opponent first picks Oliver in this situation, so he goes for Volantis into Masha, so we finally get to see the Masha. The Antares coming out means that he's letting the Tiana through Amduat and Antares. He's got 2 counters to the Tiana. He's basically using the opponent's Tiana against them. This way, there's a completely clean battlefield of no immunity for Antares to cut, Amduat to cut, and potentially, I was going to say strip and stun things. There's no strips that they need, they're just stun things. So he only gets 1 stun on the Oliver. I mean, it's a good enough unit to stun. Never mind, there's a violent proc, because of course there is. So he's continuing to cycle attack gauge with the Amduat. Do as much damage as, well, probably not a lot of damage. He probably doesn't have a whole lot of damage on that Amduat. Amduat does damage based on speed, though. So as long as he has speed on the Amduat, although we've already seen that he doesn't have a crazy amount of speed on his units just in general, he just goes for more efficiency than speed. Sometimes he has good crit damage on things, but not necessarily speed. So in this situation, he may have an issue dealing with that Water Monkey King. He needs to find an opening for the Water Monkey King. Actually, I'm surprised it took that much damage, because unless he changed the runes on the Masha a little bit, maybe he tweaked some things. But we know that the Masha was actually pretty tanky. I mean, she still did take that damage without dying, but I thought she was actually tankier than that. And we also know that the Masha is not super crazy ridiculous fast. Some other players have super crazy ridiculous fast Mashas, but he goes for a more tanky bruiser kind of build. Even with that, her base speed is so high anyway. So the question is, can he find the opening to kill this monkey when the monkey doesn't have invincibility? If the monkey violent procs once without the invincibility on, then he is GG. Well, he gets it. Never mind. If that monkey procced, that would have been a different situation. It's always a different situation. Violent runes. If that monkey would have gotten an extra turn, that would have been a different situation. He would have been able to kill the Horus, and then would have been able to continually stun and cycle into the Abellio, and the opponent actually could have won that with a 22% chance to proc with the monkey. First pick Oliver into a Moor and Masha, which is, we're seeing a lot of the same stuff. Although we're seeing Masha more. We're seeing Masha more than ever before. This draft on the right-hand side, very interesting. Was not expecting Dominic at the very end, although Dominic is definitely being significantly more used than he used to be. significant. Although he was still more, and he's on Nemesis too, so he was still used more when he was 300% attack power pure damage. But yeah, and Masha also more than she ever was used before. So kind of curious. The Masha could be very dangerous here against 2 wind units, especially with her infinite immunity. So they do have 2 strips that the Masha has to worry about. They have the Volantis, skill 3, and then they have the Diana if he wants to YOLO the Diana into that. So he also wanted to make sure that he didn't do strips into things that had immunity, because the Hay Gang was just going to counter that anyway. He was just going to cleanse it off and increase attack gauge anyway. So they kind of played around that Hay Gang. Did not get a proc. That would have been a very... That would have been a different situation if they got a violent proc. I don't know why I say these things, guys. I really don't. That would have been a different situation. Oh, really? Oh my goodness. Tell us more. Another first pick Oliver from the opponent, so he goes for the Masha Volantis just like last time. So actually, Leo would be a decent pick. Leo's definitely getting picked here now. Okay, I was going to say Leo's going to be a decent pick because it nullifies the speed. He's really good against Barbara, but as soon as the tableau gets picked out, he's like, you know, the Leo is just too efficient there to not pick. Leo also gets banned out. So we do see, unfortunately, some LD5s here, which, you know, I don't really love to see the LD5s, because then I'm like, oh, then people can't... I mean, I do love to see them, but I also don't love to see them because, like, people can't really... They can't really replicate it if they want to. I like to see the Horus there. I like to see, you know, the 4-stars that are easily attainable, or just things that are easily attainable for the people watching. So they can be like, oh, I can replicate that if I wanted to. I don't think you can replicate 2 LDs, but you can still pick the Horus. That's what we learned here. But anyway, all of his runes, if you guys want to see his runes, are on his Instagram. It is linked in the description and the comments. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Very cool gameplay. Very cool person as well, because I've talked to him directly. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you as always in the next one.